In this session, Kirsten Taylor will highlight that we all have a role to play in tackling the climate emergency and loss of nature. Kirsten works with Project Drawdown, a project that shows us the most effective ways that we can remove carbon dioxide from the atmosphere.
Hello, my name is Kirsten, or Kat Taylor. I'm a newly minted graduate from university, an associate with Drawdown Communities at Project Drawdown, and a young sustainability professional. Today, for the next 20 minutes or so, hopefully your whole class time, I'm excited to join you on your path towards creating the sustainable, resilient future, versus the sustainable, resilient world you want to live in, and really taking some time to think about what that path might look like for you. Throughout our time together, I will ask you to pause this video and have a conversation with the people you're watching with about key concepts and ideas, key questions to help you deepen your understanding of the path you want to take to help implement climate solutions. Let's get started. I want to start with these two big questions that I suspect you hear a lot. Are there solutions to climate change? And if so, what do you want to do to help address climate change? Those are pretty big, overwhelming questions. But before we even dig into those, we want to make sure that we're all on the same page with what climate change is and especially how it's caused. And for this, we need to understand the greenhouse gas effect. And I have a bit of a challenge for you. In just a moment, I will ask you to pause this video for 2 to 5 minutes and to work together in a small group to explain this diagram. Specifically to explain how the diagram side on the left with the natural greenhouse gas effect is different than the diagram on the right with the human enhanced greenhouse gas effect. If you still have time, be sure to discuss how the greenhouse gas effect is leading to global warming and which Earth systems are affected by this human enhanced global warming. So what things beyond just our atmosphere are affected by global warming. While you work together, keep in mind that you may not have all the answers. You may not have a perfect understanding of this, and that is totally okay. The goal is to work together to have enough of an understanding to see the connections between this and global warming. Pause me now and take 2 to 5 minutes to discuss this diagram with your group. Awesome, welcome back. I hope you enjoyed discovering the knowledge and the questions that you all hold together in your minds. Remember, you are always able to look up more information about this diagram and about the greenhouse gas effect and climate change in general. It's okay if you don't have all the answers, and we're actually going to move on because we have an idea of what the greenhouse gas effect is and how it's causing climate change. But the question we're really working to answer is, are there solutions that can help address the climate crisis? Quite simply, yes, there are. I work for Project Drawdown, a research-based organization with the mission to help the world reach drawdown as quickly, safely, and equitably as possible. But what is drawdown? That's a kind of obscure word. Let's dig into that a little. Drawdown is the point in the future when levels of greenhouse gases in the atmosphere stop climbing and start to steadily decline, thereby stopping catastrophic climate change. And you can see here on this diagram, you can see how the greenhouse gas levels, this red line, are increasing. And here, this blue dot is that moment of drawdown, that moment when we're bending the curve and starting to kind of change the narrative and change the reality of the warming of the atmosphere and the climate crisis. Over the past 7 years, Project Drawdown has done extensive research into solutions that humanity is implementing to address climate change. Our solutions team has identified over 80 different technologies and practices that are currently available, financially viable. They have the proven potential to reduce greenhouse gases in the atmosphere, and there's sufficient data to model these solutions mathematically, model them at a global scale of implementation. These solutions touch on all sectors of society, all parts of our lives, and I want to share some of them with you today. I really want to share them in a way that helps us imagine what the world could be like with these solutions implemented more broadly and more widely. And I'm excited to do this with you right now. Let's start with the food, agriculture, and land use sector. We can imagine a world where we have reduced our food waste. So instead of having a third of the world's food contributing to greenhouse gas emissions, food goes to hungry people who need it. A world where we embrace fruits and vegetables, even if they're an odd shape or size, they're not picture perfect, and where we're working to reduce waste at all steps of the food supply chain. We can imagine a world where we give greater attention and care to our farmland, where we restore abandoned farmland that's been farmed so many times that the soil is totally depleted and it's no longer profitable for growing crops. We can imagine a world where this abandoned farmland becomes a carbon sink and a productive ecosystem once more, where it is restored to pasture or wilderness or agricultural use through regenerative agricultural methods. We can imagine a world where regenerative farming and practices restore abandoned farmland and are also used to maintain the productivity and soil health of existing farmland, where practices like no tillage, diverse cover crops, not using extra nutrient sources, so nutrient sources that aren't from the farm, using no or minimal pesticides, and using multiple crop rotations help restore the health of the soil, literally storing more carbon and more nutrients in it, which enhances the farmland, the quality of the food grown on that land, and helps capture carbon dioxide. We can envision a world where we're legally protecting and restoring peatlands by rewetting them. Peatlands, which are sometimes called bogs or mires, like this one in Estonia, or this one in Ireland, are incredible ecosystems. They're unique in their ability to store lots and lots of carbon over time. Most ecosystems reach a point of carbon saturation, where the amount of carbon dioxide they're taking out of the atmosphere is equal to the amount that they're emitting as organisms die and decompose. But peatlands are incredibly unique. They don't do this. They just continue to to sequester carbon for a very long time, which makes them incredible carbon sinks. So protecting the world's peat ecosystems from drainage or alternate land use is part of protecting key stores of carbon for our planet. And it's a very important part of protecting these really valuable, unique ecosystems and the services they provide to our society, like filtering water, protecting against floods, and supporting biodiversity. We can imagine extending this protection to restoring and protecting other ecosystems, like forests and coastal wetlands. Ecosystems that store carbon and are also havens for biodiversity, that help prevent soil erosion, that filter water, provide barriers against storm surges, and so many more. If we move on to the energy sector, we can envision a world where we see even more renewable energy sources implemented, where we harness the power of offshore or onshore wind to power our cities. A world where the power of tides is part of what helps power our smartphones. A world where the energy that powers our computers, our vehicles, our economic activities comes from geothermal energy, solar energy, or other renewable sources. A world where we're working to increase the flexibility of our electricity grid so these renewable forms of power can be easily added to existing infrastructure. In some ways, you can almost just like plug them in and that power will be available and part of the grid. If we move on to the building sector, we can envision a world where we're improving building efficiency and saving money at the same time. We can envision a world where unused rooftops become green havens. Areas within cities that were previously like unused, blacktops had nothing on them, becoming key ecosystems for animals in those cities, while also protecting rooftops from the elements and keeping entire buildings, and by extension those cities, a lot cooler. We can envision a world where we're equipping our buildings with the hardware and tools to be cooler and more efficient overall. Tools like LED lights, high performance glass, and smart thermostats. A world where these different parts of the building are all connected and controlled by building automation systems. These systems are amazing. They actually respond to the current conditions inside of a building, to the current temperature, amount of light, and indoor air quality. These systems will automatically adjust in response to those factors, responding to which rooms are occupied and ensuring that energy is used as efficiently as possible throughout the building. We can look to our industry sector solutions to help us envision a world where waste becomes a useful part of the production of our materials once more. A world where we're converting our food waste into a carbon-rich soil additive by composting. A world where we increase our recycling of materials, paper, and plastics, giving them a new life and new uses, while also reducing the strain on ecosystems from material extraction, littering, and landfills. We can envision a world where we're improving our industrial processes and other parts of our life so they use materials that emit fewer greenhouse gases, like using alternative cement in our cities and our buildings, or alternative refrigerants in our air conditioners and refrigerators. We can minimize the release of potent greenhouse gases. We can look to our transportation sector solutions to imagine transforming our transportation system so it not only emits fewer greenhouse gases, but also improves our health and our sense of community. We can imagine increasing bicycle infrastructure to allow for greater, safer use of bicycles as transportation and as a way to build exercise into our lives. We can imagine electrifying many forms of transportation like cars, trains, and bikes to allow people to move swiftly at the speed they need to and to begin relying on renewable energy for transportation. We can imagine optimizing air travel and ocean shipping by making them more efficient and less energy intensive. We can look to our health and education sector solution. We can recognize that uplifting gender equality, universal education, and sexual and reproductive health rights can also advance long-term solutions to climate change. Universal access to high-quality education is transformative and ensures that everyone is able to achieve their full potential and to participate in the process of addressing climate change. Providing everyone with access to voluntary sexual and reproductive health care advances people's control and autonomy over their own bodies, an inherent human right, and has ancillary benefits as the population growth slows at a global level. Okay, let's pause here for a second. That was a lot. In just a moment, I will ask you to pause this video for 5 to 7 minutes and to talk with each other about this question. Which solutions or sectors that we just learned about are igniting your curiosity and your passions? Which ones are kind of calling to you? Take a moment to think about this as a group. Be sure to jot down your thoughts, and teachers, be sure that you're participating too. All right, pause this video for 5 and take 5 to 7 minutes to discuss this key question. Brilliant, welcome back. I hope this discussion helped you feel excited and hopeful about the solutions that exist to address climate change and to help us reach Drawdown. I encourage you to learn more about the climate solutions that most interest you at drawdown.org. All right, so we know some of the solutions that our world can use to build a path towards a more sustainable, resilient future and to address climate change. We don't have much time left, and I want to be sure we explore this second question of what do you want to do to help address climate change? This is a question that I personally find very challenging. And for this, I want to share my thoughts as a young sustainability professional and from my personal experience, not as an employee of Project Drawdown. So I hear this question a lot, and many times I feel like this. There are just so many different answers out there. There are so many parts of climate change to work on. I know each one is important and fascinating, that each one has its own amazing career path I'd be so interested in. There are lots of choices and lots of right answers. How do I make sure that I choose the right role, get the right job, attend the right workshop? How do I make sure that I'm doing my part to make an impact or that I'm doing enough? How do I know if I have enough knowledge to make a difference? I have been, and I'm still devoting a lot of time to this question. And today I want to share 3 key insights that I've recognized with you all that are helping me navigate the question, and with the hope they will help you think about this question and gain some clarity over what it means for you. Oh, let's see. The first insight is that you are not alone. I found that remembering this really simple and powerful fact helps me as someone in the climate space for two reasons. First, it helps me set aside a societal idea that we're often told, that a hero or someone who's solving a really big problem goes it alone, that you need to be bold and your work should stand out and it should just be yours and it should be widely recognized. Like a hero is someone who saves people and they kind of go it alone, they're doing it just themselves. But climate change is too large a challenge to go it alone. And even if one person or one nation could, even if one person or one nation could be that stereotypical hero for everyone else, they shouldn't. Climate change affects everybody. It touches on everyone's lives in so many different ways. And everyone needs to be included in figuring out how we can address it and what paths we should take to get there. This insight that we're not alone in doing this work also helps me close doors to opportunities that I'm less interested in. And I'd like to share how when I really started to feel that this insight was true, was when I was a Drawdown scholar at Penn State in 2019. And I had this opportunity to be part of a diverse group of students doing research into drawdown solutions. I met and I worked alongside people majoring in economics, electrical engineering, anthropology, environmental sciences, mathematics, geography, sociology, so many different fields. And we were all working on drawdown solutions, all passionate about addressing climate change. And as we talked about kind of the different ways that we could approach climate solutions, the different lenses that we could use to address these different problems, I could see how all of our specialities, our passions, our ideas were fitting together like a puzzle. Each of us brought a different and important perspective and a different way of thinking about addressing climate change and implementing climate solutions as a society. I was able to recognize that it's okay that I'm not interested in focusing my career on sustainable business. I know someone majoring in economics who really wants to do that and is going to do an incredible job. It's okay that I don't want to specialize in environmental communication. My friends who are specializing in environmental sociology are so passionate and so good at environmental communication. Remembering that I'm not alone working in the climate space gives me the freedom to listen to myself more deeply and to close doors to those opportunities that I'm just less interested in. Because I know someone else out there is incredibly passionate and is ready to walk through that door and take on that part of the challenge. The second key insight is that every career is a climate career, and thus every passion has a role to play. And I think that this insight is really freeing. It means that you can recognize that climate change is a challenge you want to work on and to help address. And you can recognize that you don't want to specialize in environmental studies or environmental science, something that's explicitly environmentally focused, and you can still implement climate solutions and make a difference in your career. Let's focus on a couple different careers, ones that we typically think of having nothing to do with climate solutions, to see how this might work. Finance and investment. Perhaps you're incredibly passionate about finance and investment. You are so curious about how money moves through society, who chooses to invest in what the stock market is doing and how it behaves. And all of those passions have a role to play in implementing climate solutions. You can choose to help solutions scale by investing in them and by supporting other investors in identifying infrastructure and projects that advance climate solutions and help address climate change. And through this, you could become a leader in these emerging markets for climate solutions. Perhaps you are passionate about storytelling, theater, and comedy. Maybe you're the class clown. You love making people laugh and think more deeply about the world around them, and your passions have a role to play. Comedy and storytelling can be used to inspire critical thinking about the status quo. Think about Saturday Night Live, where every Saturday, people come together and they highlight the ironies that are present really throughout everyday life. And they help people think about and talk about different challenges society faces in a critical way. So you can help to influence the public conversation through the stories and the jokes that you tell. Your passions have a role to play. Perhaps you're passionate about health and others' well-being. You're fascinated by the human body. You want to help care for people, and you want to help people access healthcare. And your passions have a role to play. You could become a doctor or a nurse who provides relief and support during climate-related disasters, or someone who advocates for access to voluntary reproductive health services. You could become a doctor and advocate for solutions that also improve human health, solutions that help decrease air pollution like bicycle infrastructure and solar energy, or solutions that can help improve our diet like plant-rich diets. You can share stories about the connection between climate solutions and human health, and really use the influence of healthcare to drive society towards solutions. Every passion can be connected to implementing climate solutions and improving society. You should follow and honor your passions because they're a key part of your climate solutions journey and they will help you continue moving along that path. So please don't feel the need to change your passions to fit an expectation about what an environmental job is. Every job is a climate job. Every passion has a role to play. Oh, shoot. The last insight that I'd like to share is that climate skills are diverse and you can develop them in many, many different ways. Perhaps you're worried that you won't have the skills that you'll need to work in the climate space, or that you'll need to take time away from your other passions and activities to be trained in climate skills. And I'm here to let you know that I've had those same concerns, and that I believe that you are developing these skills, these climate skills right now. You're developing your climate skills in the classroom as you learn about different parts of society and how they're all interlaced. As you strengthen your understanding of maths and history, as you crystallize your voice in your English and literature classes. You're developing climate skills as you have challenging conversations with your peers and your family. As you learn how to listen deeply to each other, how to persuade and inspire the people around you. You're developing climate skills as you volunteer for your community, as you understand and deepen your understanding of what it means to selflessly support others, and how you can help organize groups of people to achieve a common goal. You strengthen your skills as you pursue your passion for writing stories, screenplay, and composing music. As you engage in the design process through a robotics or an engineering club. As you learn how to fail and start over, as you strengthen your determination through sports, music, or other hard things. As you work in teams to complete group assignments, plan events, and make changes around your school and your community. Climate skills are diverse, and discovering the role that you want to play in implementing climate solutions requires that you pursue your passions, all of them, your career-focused passions and your personal passions, because those are what will help you grow and that will help you keep walking the path of implementing climate solutions. All right, we're going to move into our third exercise. And so in just a moment, I'm going to ask you to pause this video for 7 to 10 minutes. And I want you to spend the first 4 to 5 minutes thinking about these questions independently and really reflecting on them personally. What are some of your personal passions and skills? Just in general, what are things that you're passionate about? What are some of the things that you're really good at and that you're learning and strengthening about yourself? And then how might you use your passions and skills to implement climate solutions in your community, in your school, in your neighborhood, in your city, all of those. After you've reflected independently for 4 to 5 minutes, come together as a class and share out your reflections for another 4 to 5 minutes. All right. Pause this video now and reflect for 7 to 10 minutes on these 2 important questions. Welcome back. I hope that exercise brought you a lot of joy and that you were able to see how your passions, skills, and ideas fit together to help bring climate solutions to life in your community. I hope you were able to start seeing how, with everyone in your class, with all of your passions and skills and interests, how you might fit together like puzzle pieces to help bring climate solutions to life near you. If you or your peers have extra time, you can continue to think about implementing climate solutions in your community with a short bonus video. Be sure to ask your teacher where to find it. Thank you for letting me join you on this part of your climate solutions journey today. I hope the path you choose to follow feels just a little bit clearer after our time together, and that walking down it brings you lots and lots of joy.
The action for this session is to think about the role you can play. What's your passion? How are you going to use your interests to advance climate solutions and cultivate hope? Let us know what your thoughts are on Twitter using the hashtags #ClimateNatureSummit and #COP26.